President Trump appears to be backing down from his threat to close the U.S. Mexico border. He's now threatening auto tariffs and giving Mexico a one-year warning to address the flow of drugs and immigrants across the southern border.
The only thing, frankly, better but less drastic than closing the border is to tariff the cars coming in. And I will do it, just like you know I will do it. I don't play games. I'll do it. So we're doing it to stop people. We're going to give them a one-year warning, and if the drugs don't stop or largely stop, we're going to put tariffs on Mexico and products, in particular cars.
Mr. Trump had been threatening to close the southern port of entry this week. It comes as the number of immigrants seeking entry into the U.S. continues to rise to near record numbers. He is also expected to visit the border on Friday during a trip to California. Let's bring in CBS News national correspondent Manuel Bojorquez. He's in El Paso, Texas. Manny, good to see you. What are you hearing from people who live and work in cities and towns along the border about this change in position by the president?
Well, there's definitely a lot of relief here that the shutdown of the border is at least not imminent. The president had said it would happen by the end of this week, and now that appears to have lifted, there's a lot of people that are thinking he made the right decision, even though it may have only put it off for about a year or so. There were so many people here who were concerned about the economic impact, not only on this region and all the regions along the border, but also for the country as a whole. We're talking about trade in the billions of dollars between the United States and Mexico. Produce, fruits, vegetables, and all that was expected to go up in price for consumers in the United States if the shutdown were to have happened. So clearly, the president not backing fully away from that, but saying it would not be immediate is definitely a relief for people here.
Well, President Trump said Thursday that he will give Mexico 1 year to stop the flow of immigrants and illegal drugs coming across the border. Is that something that officials in the U.S. and Mexico view as realistic?
It depends on who you ask. So from Mexico, you will hear officials saying that they have already implemented a plan along their southern border to deport Central Americans, the ones that they can get, to send them back to their home countries. That was something that was implemented after that surge of unaccompanied minors back in 2014. And they will also say that until the United States can get a control over drug use in this country, that market is going to be there and the drugs will continue to flow up. So you have a lot of people who are saying, look, we have to address the root problems here. If you want to talk about drugs, you have to talk about consumption of the United States. If you want to talk about migration and the surge that we're seeing, you have to talk about the violence and the poverty that people are living in Central America and address those things there. But as you know, the president has decided to slash aid to El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras as a result of what he feels is those countries not doing enough or not using it effectively. So it remains to be seen how that will impact those numbers of migrants that are still coming up to the border.
So at the same time, the president is threatening tariffs on auto imports from Mexico. What kind of impact would that have?
It remains to be seen clearly. Tariffs, a lot of people view this as eventually those increase in prices will reach the consumers. So it's possible that U.S. consumers of those vehicles could see the prices go up, and that would in turn affect some of those automakers like GM that import some pretty popular models from Mexico. It would clearly hurt the Mexican economy more, and that's the threat he would like to put up there. But a lot of people here that we've been speaking with as well say that they wish the president were a little more careful with his words, because just the threat of shutting down the border they felt already harmed the local economy here. You're seeing behind me all these people going back and forth. There are thousands of people that go back and forth between El Paso and Juarez every day to go to school, to go to work, and the uncertainty that was created this week about the possible shutdown. Well, some people simply stayed home, didn't go to work, or were afraid of getting caught on the wrong side of the border if there was a shutdown.
Wow, really interesting to hear the perspective from the border there. Manuel Bojorquez, Manny, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Let's bring in Nick Miroff. He's a reporter for The Washington Post and has been covering the situation at the U.S. Mexico border extensively. Nick, thanks so much for joining us. You spoke with Mexico's ambassador to the United States, Martha Barcina, today. How is she responding to the latest statements from the president?
That's right. She spoke at an event with a Mexican diplomat who was here for trade negotiations. But prior to that event, we asked her if Mexico was capable of doing what the president is asking, that is to completely stop all illegal immigration. And what the ambassador said was that migration is something happening all over the world and that you cannot stop it. You can only regulate it and make it more orderly. And she once more emphasized that the Mexican government's preferred approach is to partner with the United States on addressing the root causes of migration in Central America.
Well, so how are U.S. businesses responding to this?
Well, I think U.S. businesses were apoplectic when they, saw that the president was possibly going to close the border. I think the White House was inundated with warnings from pretty much every trade organization and major company you can think of, really trying to talk him out of this. His advisors were engaged in the same, and today we saw he has sort of moved the goalposts again and said that maybe this will happen in a year and it would be auto tariffs first. So I don't think anybody after this week really has a good sense of what he ever intended to do or whether he was serious about actually doing it.
Yeah, I mean, what is behind the president's pivot on closing the southern border?
I think he's angry when he sees when he sees the images of large numbers of people coming across, and he starts to take criticism from many of the networks that he pays attention to and the critics that he hears. I think he wants to do something dramatic and bold, and so this was kind of the thing he identified as a possible solution. And there are people around him who think that doing something really sweeping like that would stir the kind of crackdown from Mexico that would change things. But I think that it ran up against the reality of the potential impact on the U.S. economy and so many American businesses that have manufacturing and assembly plants in Mexico.
Well, you reported that a panel of top House lawmakers held a private vote to authorize a lawsuit against a border closure. What were their arguments for that, and how much of a role do you think that played in the president's decision?
I don't remember the details of that particular initiative, but I can tell you that from the Hill, from private business, from pretty much everyone you can think of, the message to the White House this week was don't do it.
Well, President Trump is scheduled to visit the U.S. Mexico border in California on Friday. What will you be watching for when he makes that visit?
Well, he's going to Calexico, which is in California's Imperial Valley. It's right across from the Mexican city of Mexicali. One of the ironies of this is that those two cities, take their names from each other's countries. Calexico is a combination of California and Mexico, and Mexicali, Mexico, and California again. And this is a very much one of these places that has been integrated by cross-border trade, and it's now the site of one of the tallest and most formidable spans of border wall. That is why the president has picked this destination. It's a place where they have replaced existing border wall with a 30-foot tall, steel fence. So I think we'll hear a lot more about the wall and how the president views the wall as a solution to the crisis on the border right now.
Well, the president's threat to close the border was partially motivated by the rise in crossings at the southern border. What steps is the administration taking to actually address that?
Well, the Secretary of Homeland Security has ordered a surge force of additional personnel to the border to help to support the U.S. Border Patrol. And in addition to that, they want to expand a pilot program that is making asylum seekers from Central America who arrive to the U.S. side. It is making them go back to Mexico to wait there while their claims are adjudicated. That program has been done on a very limited basis so far, and Secretary Nielsen has said that they want to expand that quickly. But short of that, they continue to call on, Congress to act and to try to deliver the kinds of administrative and legal responses that they think would make a difference. There's very little indication that Democrats in the House in particular are ready to do that, particularly given the way the president talks about this particular phenomenon.
All right, such a critical issue. We'll continue to watch it. Nick Miroff, thanks so much, Nick.
Thank you.